by another number consisting of a like number of figures. He could state almost instantly all the factors composing a number of 6 or 7 places of figures. He could likewise determine instantly questions concerning the extraction of the square and cube roots of any number proposed, and likewise whether it was a prime number incapable of division by any other number for which there is no known general rule among mathematicians. Asked such questions in the midst of his ordinary childish play, he would answer them almost instantly, and then proceed with his play. The Rosicrucians teach that the human soul is on the path of progress, learning the lessons of life and experience, life after life, and storing away the essence of these impressions, which go to form the basis of the character of the individual when he is born. The rebirth, or the conditions thereof, are not forced upon the individual soul, according to the Rosicrucian teachings, but on the contrary, the individual soul is attracted towards rebirth by reason of the presence of certain desires in its character, or rather, by reasons of the essence of its desires. It is reborn into certain environments solely because it has within itself certain unsatisfied desires, which could be satisfied only in just those environments. The operation of the law of attraction is justly regular here, as in the attraction of the atoms of matter. Each soul contains within itself the attracting force of certain sets of desires, and this force attracts to the soul certain conditions and experiences, and also attracts such experiences and conditions to the soul. There is no element of punishment or of injustice in the operation of this law, for it gives to each soul just what the soul requires to meet its indwelling and satisfied desires, or else the conditions and experiences which will serve to burn out of the soul certain desires which are holding it back in its progress, the destruction of which will make possible future advancement. The Rosicrucians teach that the individuals of any subrace who have outstripped their fellows in spiritual enfoldment are still bound by race ties to their brothers left behind. That is, up to a certain point. In many cases, such individuals are compelled until the body of the subrace moves up to the position of the individual. But such individuals are not compelled to undergo a needless repetition of births and rebirths during this waiting period, but instead they spend the period on some exalted plane on which they come in contact with advanced souls and higher beings who act as their teachers. In some cases, these advanced individuals consent to return to earth life as great teachers in order to aid in the general progress of the subrace. The teaching is that among us today many of such advanced and self-sacrificing souls are dwelling, aiding in the general uplift. The Rosicrucian teachings concerning the value of experiences in each earth life are well illustrated by the following quotation from the leading writer, who says, "Many object to the doctrine of rebirth on the ground that the experiences of each life, not being remembered, must be useless and without value. This is an erroneous view of the subject, for which such experiences may not be fully remembered, yet they are not lost to us at all, but really form a part of the material of which our minds are composed. They exist in essence in the form of feelings, characteristics, inclinations, likes and dislikes, affinities, attractions, repulsions, etc., and are in this form just as much in evidence in our lives and are the experiences of yesterday, which are well remembered. Look back over the years of your present life and try to recall the experiences of 1 year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years, 30 years, and as much further back as you can go. You will find that you can remember but few of the events of your life. The experiences of most of the days in which you have lived have been almost completely forgotten. Though these experiences may have seemed very vivid and real to you when they occurred, still they have faded into nothingness now, and they are, to all intents and purposes, lost to you. but they are not lost. Remember, you are what you are today by reason of these very experiences, which you now fail to remember. They exist in your character and have helped to mold and shape it. The apparently forgotten pains, pleasures, sorrows, and happinesses are active factors in the formation and maintenance of your character of today. This trial strengthened you along certain lines. That one changed your point of view and made you see things with a broader vision. This grief caused you to feel the pain of others. That disappointment spurred you onto new endeavors, and each and every one of them left a permanent mark upon your personality, upon your character. All men and women are what they are by reason of what they have gone through, have lived out, and outlived. And through these happenings, scenes, circumstances, occurrences, experiences have faded from the memory. Their effects are indelibly imprinted upon the fabric of the character, and the individual of today is different from what he would have been had the happenings or experience not entered into his life. And the same rule applies to the characteristics brought over from past incarnations. You have not the memory of the experiences, but you have their fruit in the shape of characteristics, tastes, inclinations, etc. You have a tendency towards things and a distaste for others. Certain things attract you, while other things repel you. All of these things are the results of your experiences in former incarnations. Your very tastes and inclination towards the study of the occult, which are now causing you to read these lines. They are your legacy from some former life in which some seed thoughts of esoteric teachings were dropped into your thought by some teacher or friend, and then aroused your interest and attracted your attention.